Hi, everyone. Welcome to your check-in with Gwen. I'm your host, Gwendolyn McLemore, and I'm very grateful that you're here. This episode is going to be great for you if you are just trying to figure out what should we be doing right now. During this time together, there will be tips, thoughts, and words of encouragement shared as we try to build a system that actually works for our lives. I am going to demonstrate how you actually check in on someone and discuss the 5 domains of health. And then from there, we're just going to talk about what's going on from an American's viewpoint on March 4th, 2026. So, checking in physically, strange. I feel strong because I've been getting enough sleep. I'm also fueling my body with the right food and movement. However, my energy levels feel very drained. And I think that is more of a social and emotional piece. Mentally, I am feeling scared. I am mentally feeling clear headed. I am feeling afraid. I am feeling distracted. I'm feeling slightly delusional. Mentally, I think that my thoughts about my day to day are competing with my thoughts regarding just a higher power, right? My more esoteric, upper level spiritual thoughts are interfering with my thoughts about day to day. Spiritually, I am feeling disturbed. There is a lot of violence and confusion and negativity swaying around. I'm also feeling very spiritually strong because I think the more disruption on a day-to-day level that like my society is facing, the more clear my purpose is becoming, that I want to represent just a place of safety. Spiritually, I am also feeling excited because there's some traveling on my horizon. Emotionally, there's some relief. I'm feeling very connected and I'm feeling very gentle. I'm feeling some appreciation for myself and for what I represent in people's lives. I'm also feeling emotionally drained and tired as well. Socially, I'm also feeling slightly drained. Just the expectation to socialize, I think, is falling quite heavy on me. So I'm just going to have my last few moments and then I'm going to stop for a while. I don't know necessarily how to socialize and continuously have lighthearted fun when things don't feel lighthearted or fun right now. And I don't think that it's a disservice to take a break from going out and spending unnecessary money, especially if you can't talk about what's going on in the world for the sake of having a good time. And so socially, I'm feeling a little burnt out because I think people want to connect with me and they've been trying to, and I've been trying to reciprocate. But then there's this level of like, we are not actually connecting when we're together, right? We're avoiding the reality of what's going on. And so I'm not necessarily a fan of that. So socially, I think I could use some work, but that's that. And so yeah, I'm checked in. I'll give it a solid 6 out of 10. I would suggest that you check in with yourselves and you do it gently. And then you check in with someone in your life, someone around you. I think that today it took me a while to come on to record because I was torn about the topic I had planned today versus what's on my heart to speak. And so I'm going to go with the latter and just talk about ways we can connect and start to deal with the reality of what's happening. Yet again, the United States is being involved in a war. There were some attacks in Iran and Dubai, back and forth, both parties, starting this past weekend, early March. And so, aside with the crippling debt, aside with all the knowledge of crimes, sexual crimes against children and society and women, aside from the technology interfering with our human interactions, now we have to deal with the fact that a new world war is brewing. Unfortunately, the world has been at war nonstop since I've been alive, right? However, now we are getting involved on a larger scale. And what does that really mean, right? I think to Americans, it has some of the biggest sticker shock because now there's a level of discussion and awareness that normally our society tries to skip over. Normally, when we as Americans are bombing other people and doing all of these horrible things around the world, we have our entertainment to distract us. We have American politics to distract us. And unfortunately, those things are so negative and overwhelming that there is no distraction for an American citizen. You cannot be distracted from the realism of the world that we are living and creating. And so it's like, what do you do when you have this crippling feeling of panic and sadness and confusion and anger? How do you feel justified to keep going? And I am just offering my viewpoints on how I'm balancing my life right now. And I hope that they provide some guidance to you all. And just to get into it, regarding my contribution to the world, what I'm trying to counteract by doing this show was just offering some positivity, offering some guidance, offering a direction that's not being swayed by capitalism. I'm not offering you this message for money. I'm not offering you this message because I want to control you in your life. I'm offering you this as a way to counteract so many people that want to cut you off from your humanity. I just want you to be the best version of a human that you can be, right? And that involves connecting with other humans. That involves connecting with nature. That involves connecting with things that are bigger than humanity. And I just want to offer my advice. But I'm doing this as a form of art and a form of release and a form of processing, right? That's why I'm showing up in the world at this particular moment because I need to process what is happening in real time. And I offer that as a practice to you. You might not make music for the purpose of becoming a big star. You might start to write music and write poetry and color and create art and move your body and play games. You might do those things so you can process in real time what is happening. And I suggest you do so and you document it so you have something to reflect on if we don't have access in this way going forward, right? That's one of the first pieces. Another piece is I am changing my shopping habits and my consumption habits. That's another way I'm dealing with what's going on in the world. I have not always been the best with money. With that, I mean, I have not thought long term. I bought purchases just for very temporary benefits. And I say you cannot take your money with you. Money is created to be spent. But you have to know that you have to have a respectful relationship. You have to spend money in a way that benefits your life and benefits the world around you. That's how you get more of it. If you spend money that does not benefit anyone, right, and you just waste the energy won't continuously come to you. And so an example of that is that, you get paid and you spend so much money on Amazon buying little nuance and gadgets and things like that. I'm all for home improvement, but if you made it the past 3 years without using it, I'm sure you don't necessarily need it to get by. And that's like a very specific example for myself. But I more so mean as soon as you get it, don't give it all away. Or as soon as you get money, you should try to pay yourself first. Pay future you first. If you get money, set aside 10% for you at another date when you might need it. That's an act of love, an act of care. I'm also trying to shop within community. And what I mean is that billionaires don't necessarily need my money right now. The stores in my neighborhood might. The vendors and the young people selling products that look like me, my money might mean a little bit more to them than to bigger corporations, changing how I spend my money. I'm also shopping in bulk, and I want to pair up with people around me in my community who might not have the opportunity to shop in bulk, or they just want to make better financial choices, right? That might look like going to Costco and everybody putting in $150. 4 people put in $150. Now you each have 2 to 3 months worth of meat, right? Versus that $150 singularly might only get you 2 to 3 weeks. And so that's something new. Buying at local produce markets, you might get more of a deal, you might get fresher produce. And once again, it'll probably help that farmer more than helping a big grocery store. And all of these things are very dependent on your situation. It depends on where you live. I grew up in food deserts. I grew up where I could only buy prepackaged stuff from a corner store, and that was the only place I could afford, or that was the only place that was close by. So I'm definitely not sharing this telling you that you need to become some health nut and only organic or only the most expensive, because I'm quite aware that that's not everyone's situation. Another tip regarding how to cope with the amount of pain and strife in the world right now, the amount of war, the amount of violence. It sounds counterintuitive, but trying your hardest to prioritize joy. Joy does not always mean excitement. Joy does not always mean fun, right? Joy just means seeing that there is something worth being alive for. Joy is a feeling of pleasure, right? And happiness to be experienced. It's important in the face of pain to remember that joy exists. Sometimes we can change our emotional and mental state by placing a hook somewhere else in our brain that we want to be. And then our brains and our bodies will do the heavy lifting to get us from one emotional state to the next, right? Psychologically, that works. And so when you are faced with pain, when you are faced with discomfort, it can be very helpful to try to put a hook in joy. That way you can shift. Emotional states are temporary, even if they are very strong and very impactful. And so hopelessness is still temporary. It might seem like it stretches forever, but it's still one emotional state. If you can condition yourself to remember that on the opposite of every horrible day is a better day, it gives you an idea that this suffering won't be for the rest of your lives, even if it's been a large portion of your life. Even if you feel like you've only suffered since you've been alive, there's still an opportunity that one day it'll change. And that is a strong form of intrinsic motivation. So when we are faced with the idea that we might be in another world war, that things might be this difficult, you have to remember that there is an opportunity for peace and that you might have to choose peace in your life. And it can be very hard to do that, and you can feel very guilty. It can feel very guilty to try to find something to smile about when you know so many people are around you crying. But sometimes you need to be that beacon of positivity as a way to help everyone shift, as a way for you to tolerate your reality more. You smiling doesn't make it any less of a bad day, right? You choosing joy does not mean that something bad didn't happen. It just means that you're choosing how you're responding to it. And it's the same thing about what's going on in the world. You do have to modify your life. You do not have to stop seeking pleasurable experiences because there's so much bad happening. Choosing joy in the face of negativity is a very, very, very strong executive function hack. It requires flexibility. It requires you to be able to picture a different outcome. And it's a skill, right? We don't survive our worst days by panicking and only thinking of the negativity. You survive your worst days by feeling those emotions, letting the scenes of the day play out, and then choosing a positive outcome for yourself. That's how you survive your worst day. And as a mindset, as a species, that's what we're going to have to do. We are going to have to modify in real time, make safer, smarter choices. We are going to allow this to play out. And then you have to choose a positive outcome. If you want to donate, if you feel like your money is where you want to help, I am someone who was a big donation person, you can look up verified organizations in your area, right? You don't have to take big national organizations. You can look up local groups of marginalized people in your area, right? And so in Washington, there's the Alefab group that focuses on Iranian culture and youth. There's the Iranian American Community Alliance. And so you can connect with these organizations that were already doing the work, and you can ask, how can I help? How can I be of service? If you don't necessarily want to go that route, you can get 2 to 3 friends and do something personal to yourself. I had 2 friends last week. We passed out supplies to our local unhoused community. And we did it in honor of Black History Month, and we did it just because it was a purpose that was important to us. And so you find ways to select joy, and you find ways that you can help as an individual. And then you step away and you set the pain down. Even if you are a victim of the violence, even if you are a victim of the things that are happening right now, and in a way, we all are, you get to set your suffering down and step away. It will still be there if you choose to pick it back up. You're not caring less if you decide to just not live in pain. If you decide to choose happiness, choose joy for a moment, that doesn't make you less of a person who cares. And so right now, I say be mindful with your money, be mindful with who you socialize with, be mindful of how much suffering you're consuming, and then decide to choose joy. Decide to know that you will not spend the rest of your life suffering. Another hack of what we should be doing at this time, and it sounds weird, but getting physically stronger for a multitude of reasons. So many people in my life, so many people the algorithm is showing me, there's like such a focus on fitness right now. And I think it's serving 2 purposes, maybe even 3. I think that one, right, as a way to process the grief, when you work out, you are physically transmuting a lot of emotions. When you work out, your muscles are physically changing your emotions from certain hormones in your body to different hormones in your body. So that's changing your mood from one mood to a different mood. Doing exercise is a really big way to regulate your feelings and your thoughts. Another reason that we should be exercising right now is that healthcare is getting less and less affordable. Healthcare in America is becoming worth nothing. Even if you have it, it still does not cover the multitude of services that we need. So I'm not saying that if you just work out, your problems go away. But what I am saying is that we are a lot less likely to receive quality care at all. So I think getting physically fit is something smart for your future self. And the last piece is that if you need to fight back in any manner, you need to be evacuated from your home. If you are physically stronger in an emergency, you have a higher chance of doing well. So if we are placed in an emergency situation due to anything, due to violence, due to an act of war, because we are actively in war, you want to be able to navigate that. You want to be able to move around. You want to be able to take care of you and your loved ones. And so I think getting physically fit and stronger is something that people really need to be doing right now, because you need to be able to take care of your body. We might not have access to the internet. We might not have access to social public services. Can you make it to your neighbor's house? Can you make it to the store? Do you have the physical capacity? I know where I live, I drive so much more than I ever walk. And growing up, I walked everywhere. I grew up in an inner city. I grew up in Philadelphia, and I didn't have a car. So I've been trying to walk more and do more. Physically, I think we should be getting fit. That is what we should be doing with our time right now. We should be prioritizing rest. We should be prioritizing food. that we can maintain healthy food. Socially, we should be prioritizing our community, not just the friends we can party with, but actually who can we talk to in an emergency? Which of our neighbors do we need to check on? Which of our neighbors will check on me? Can we combine resources? Does one of us live in a safer home? Right? Does one of us have more space if something dangerous was to go on? You need to really socially check in on your resources and check who you are a resource for. Mentally, I think that we need to be documenting as much as we can. That is going to help us get through this time, help us know who to trust and what to trust. Document your own experience. All the changes going on in the internet, that's what's showing us that things are not going to exist like how they always have. We will not be able to trust all the sources of news and information that we have. And so mentally, as a practice and as a people, I think that we need to be documenting everything. Emotionally, I think that we need to find a way to process and truly process. For me, it's this podcast. For you, it might be art. It might be cooking. It might be painting. It might be dancing. It might be poetry. It might be playing video games. But emotionally, you need to do something that you feel relief after you're done. Emotionally, find your processing skills. If you're a journaling person, stock up on journal. Spiritually, this is where you're going to find your faith. This is where you're going to find your hope and something to believe in. And so you build a spiritual practice that doesn't require much of you externally, right? I wouldn't build a spiritual practice that requires so many supplies. It needs to be something that you can internally do. That way, if you're cut off for your supplies, you still feel like you're actively practicing. Spiritually, you need to put your faith in the thought that this is a temporary moment and there will be a restructuring, there will be a reordering of society. Things will change. The world as we all recognize it may be ending, but that doesn't mean that the world doesn't exist. A new world is forming. And it is one that you can find joy in. But you need to prioritize joy now so you can make sure you make it there. And so that's what I have today. This isn't to scare you, it's just to give some direction and some guidance. What can we do in this moment? Because shit is real. It is. And it's okay to be confused. I am too. Even though I'm here yapping, telling you what to do, every day is trial and error. But you do need to get in touch with your version of humanity and what makes you feel like a good human and start doing that in abundance now. I am grateful that you decided to spend this time here with me. I am glad that we got to check in. I hope that you take this time to check in with yourself, check in with a loved one, check in with a stranger, and do it gently. Until next week, I'll check in again. Bye bye.